What I'd like to do now is walk you through the process of one of the projects. This, once again, is the 3 related colors plus working with the opposite for contrast. And so I came up with a concept that I wanted to do an objective abstract. And so I started sketching out trees. And this is the process that I was going through. I was thinking, okay, I want to have kind of that stained glass effect, and that's what would make it be an abstract. And so this is just a piece of newsprint, and I sketched out a couple of trees. I didn't go very far. I got the concept, thought, yeah, I like that. I actually drew out a little color wheel so I could figure out which colors I wanted to use. And so then, this is just a blow-up of it. When you're trying to come up with ideas, and if you're struggling with it, remember our conferences on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Show me what you've got and say, you know, this is what I want to work towards, but maybe it's not working out. Can you help me? And I'll do whatever I can, kind of give you ideas, kind of give you direction, things like that. Okay, so I sketched it out on a piece of watercolor paper. And once again, this is just the 7.5 by 11 piece of water paper. But I put in the orange sun. That was my opposite color. And I didn't want to use a lot of orange. I just wanted to use the red orange, which is the opposite. I just wanted to use enough for a focal point and in contrast. The other thing, of course, is because the sun is there, I wanted everything around it to be lighter in color. So just like on the gradation scale on your color wheel, the gradation scale, I added a lot of water to thin everything down in this area and just have a few little spots of darker pigment for contrast. And then as I worked away, it started getting a little bit darker. I tried to keep these about the same intensity. This one looks a little darker, but that was the idea. And then I made it even darker. And then now I've got all the blue in, and I'm ready to go with my next color. So my 3 related colors are going to be blue, blue-green, and green. And so I decided the blue-green would be my trees. Okay, so let's go to that. And then I decided that the green would be the grass. So once again, just like I did before, where the sun is, it's lighter. As it gets further away, it gets darker. Okay? So now I'm starting to put in the trees. So I've got my blue, blue-green, green. And so the trees are breaking up the space. I actually like the white. Thought that in some ways looked better, but didn't follow the parameters of the assignment. Okay, and so then I've got the trees colored in, and so now I need to deal with the shadows. And I decided I'd just go with a darker blue-green. And once again, the further away it got, the darker the shadow got. So that's, but I looked at this, and I didn't like this intersection here of the branches. It's a little, you know, the pigment was a little bit dark there. So I added a little bit of water to it, a little bit more pigment to make this limb be darker and just kind of smooth out that. And that's how it turned out. So this is my final piece now. And so like I said, what makes it the abstract is the way I broke up the color, not the way I drew it. Okay? Because it's fairly straightforward as far as the drawing. So that gives you several options that you can do. You can do simply a design. You can just draw lines and break up in space and do colors. The other one that I showed you, my non-objective abstract, I just was doing swirls and blending the colors together through making the colors lighter and darker and then blending them as they touched. So that just gives you a few ideas what you can do. I will say on this one, it turned out to be a lot more work than I thought. So if you want to do something like this, simplify it. Don't have so many small little areas. That really became a pain. So simplify it so it doesn't take quite so long to paint it in. So, okay. Watercolor class, painting class. Okay, this is your second project, and it's 3 related colors with the using the opposite color as contrast. Now, what are 3 related colors? 3 related colors are any colors that are touching each other on the color wheel. For this project, though, I don't want you to jump over to both sides of a primary color. Like red here, you don't want to use red violet and red orange. What you'd want to do is go this direction and go red, red, orange, orange, or go red, red, violet, violet. What I've chosen for this project is blue, blue, green, and green. Now, to find the opposite, you take those 3, you take the one that's in the middle, go straight across, and so my opposite color is red, orange. So what I've done is I've created a series of swirls, and this one is going out counterclockwise, this one's going out clockwise, this one is also going out clockwise. What I wanted to do is make the center of these be my focal point, and so that's where I'm using my opposite color in the middle. Now what I'm trying to do is use these colors, simply let them blend together so I see a transition from one color to the other. I'm also using a lot of water so that I can have dark values and light values, just like you did on your value chart right here. I'm going this direction. And so on this one, I'm going to take some water and I'm going to paint in the space. I want to leave just a slight halo, which is a dry spot in between. That way the colors won't mix. So if I paint it with clear water, the paint's only going to go as far as the water. So I'm going to take a little bit of my red orange, and I can just drop heavier daubs of pigment in it, and the water's going to spread it around. Then I can clean off my brush and come over with a little bit of the very light blue, and I want it to be mostly water, so I'm going to soften this down. And I'm going to let those two mix just a little bit there. Okay. Now I have to be real careful and just let that sit. Now this swirl is coming around this way, and it went from blue to blue-green, and so I'm going to continue that by taking my water Actually, that's not where I want to do it. I want to do it right here. So I'll just let that dry. So now I'm going to take my blue-green, and I want it to start off fairly intense. But I'm letting the water that I put down originally move the pigment around. Now, I don't want to go to the blue too fast because then this would be right next to this, and I'd like to have a little bit more contrast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lighten this color as it comes around the corner. And I can do that by simply using water to thin it down. I can come back and add some darker pigment here. And just simply dab it in and let the water move it. Okay, so now I'm going to start to lighten this as I come around the corner, so I can get rid of most of the pigment on the brush. Bring this around. Okay, now I want to start changing it over to blue. So I'm going to take some of my blue pigment. So what I'm trying to do is let the water do as much work for me as I can. Now the paper that I used is the exact same size as the paper that I did the color wheel on. Basically it's about 7.5 inches by 11 inches. Okay. Now I'm going to leave this alone for a little bit, because I want some of this water to dry so I don't have a problem with it running where I don't want it to go. But in the meantime, I want to make sure I've got some intensity of color in this area. So I'm going to set this one aside, and I'm going to talk about another one I did. Now this is an abstract, but it's definitely a non-objective abstract. There's no real object in here unless you want to say, well, it looks like a shell or something like that, but that was not my intent. What I have here is a piece that I came up with an idea, and even though it's trees and a sun and basically a landscape, what makes it be an abstract, an objective abstract, is the fact that what I try to do is treat it like a stained glass window. So every time there was a breakup of space, I would change the value. And so what you have is this mosaic look. The other thing that I did is, since the sun is here, I wanted that to be the lightest area, and as it moved away from the sun, everything became darker. And that did a couple of things. Number one, it made this the focal point. Not only is it orange, but it goes from dark to light as it comes in. And so that helps to bring the eye in. Also, there's a lot of other structures. You see this series of trees, that's rhythm. And so that also breaks up space. When we get up here, there's more of a pattern, and so that helps to draw your eye back and forth and doing different things. You'll also notice that I put this on a slight slope, so as your eye follows that slope, it's also bringing you up to the focal point. So I was thinking about all of these things as I was doing this.